afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much to the organisers of this thing for having me here and being part of the fascinating discussions that we've had over the last day and a half so far. I'm also talking about BRICS issues, more from a political economy perspective, about how BRICS engagement can actually contribute more effectively to global economic governance. There have been a number of recent articles, largely coming from US and European commentators, expressing scepticism about the BRICS and its strength as a group, certainly in the changing economy that we face at the moment. But from my perspective, there is no doubt that BRICS does matter, and BRICS also plus the broader group of emerging countries. You've heard many facts and figures, I think, from other speakers about why emerging markets are important, so I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to focus on is the importance of BRICS as a counterpoise to traditional Western powers in the context of global economic governance. BRICS is no doubt a diverse group with different interests, and it's going to take quite a bit of time for this group, it's a young group, to define a common agenda that goes beyond generalities. I think we're in the generalities phase. And in the short to medium term, I expect the focus is really likely to be on mutual learning between the members. And I think two of the other speakers from Russia and India have highlighted this as well today. However, when the external agenda of BRICS is developed in more detail, it will need to be strongly rooted in the common problems that the members face at a domestic level. And I think these are the problems that we have been discussing here over the last day or so. Things like high levels of inequality and the large numbers of people living in poverty in the BRICS countries. I'm going to focus on three issues, given the time limitations. The first being around the potential and challenges of BRICS, which I'll move through quite quickly, as I think everybody's fairly familiar with this by now. I'll talk a little bit more about BRICS and G20, building on some of the comments already made, and then also look at the governance of world trade and the role that BRICS plays in the multilateral trading system. When you do a very quick, rough, highly not mathematical analysis of the BRICS declarations, you quite soon realize that the agenda is extremely large and broad and quite general. This is a risk that you run when you have clubs such as the BRICS, where the hosting changes every year, and therefore you have this incentive on the host to add new issues, because they want to achieve some kind of results in their year of leadership. It's very similar to the G20 in that respect. The United Nations is the most widely referred to international institution in BRICS statements, which over time is probably a reflection of the initial focus the group had around issues such as Security Council reform. BRICS is young, as I said, and certainly over time I think that the focus is moving away from those more UN-related issues to economic ones, including trade and finance. And you now see that in the declarations and documents coming out of BRICS, where their focus has shifted to include much more about the G20, the WTO, and the international finance institutions. The potential of BRICS is really about rebalancing debate and providing a coordinating voice of some sort for emerging economies. And one example I would give of this is the recent activities that happened in the margins of the G20 Trade Ministers meeting, which took place in Mexico in March this year, where you saw emerging countries, not just BRICS countries, coming together before that meeting to discuss some of the issues that were on the agenda, including global value chains and the new trade narrative. BRICS economies are developing countries and face massive development challenges, and therefore I think that they provide direct experience for a new paradigm on development that should allow them to participate and represent at a broader level. It requires significant resources and capacity to engage right now in multilateral debates, discussions, including on global economic governance, and the BRICS provides the chance for countries to actually pool their resources and to better focus on such a broad agenda. This is particularly important for, I think, some of the smaller members of the BRICS and some of the countries of the BRICS that are actually newer to global debates and is an important aspect. The BRICS can certainly act as a coordination mechanism for negotiations, which we are seeing, for example, in the hybrid version of the BRICS, which is the basic group in climate change right now, which is Brazil, India, South Africa, and China. Turning to look at the BRICS and G20, the BRICS, quite frankly, have been participating in the G20 since its formation as a finance ministers grouping in 1999. So this is really not a new debate to a certain extent when you come to talking about finance issues. What is new is obviously the G20 as the heads of state forum, and here BRICS coordination is fairly limited, in my opinion. It has been described by some commentators as not really a true bloc yet, the BRICS, within the context of the G20. There are challenges such as, perhaps, as some perceive, the ongoing dominance of the G7, or in fact the real axis of power in the G20 being described as the G2 between the US and China. The questions of legitimacy and representativity of the G20 remain, and these are very important issues to be addressed at the G20, is to continue to be its self-proclaimed leader of global economic governance issues. Therefore, it's crucial for coalitions from the developing countries, such as BRICS, to make sure that they show an influence over the G20 discussions and the G20 agenda. When you talk to countries outside of the G20's membership, and I spend a lot of my time talking to other African countries about global governance issues, they actually have placed particularly high expectations on the G20. They see this group as the most powerful countries in the world. And I'm surprised, quite frankly, when I get this sense of this level of expectation. But it is there, and so it is important for the G20, in my view, to make sure that there are concrete outcomes from its work, and this is where the BRICS can be a key player. We are coming into a time now where we will have a BRICS country hosting G20, with Russia taking on the role in 2013. And I was very interested in the presentation we had from our Russian colleague this morning about what could be some of the priority issues for cooperation with BRICS countries that also might find their way into the G20 agenda. Obviously, at the heart of the G20 has been finance, financial regulation, international financial architecture. And our Indian colleague has spoken a bit about that already. There is no doubt that the BRICS are all closely linked into the global financial systems, and then they therefore, I think, share a commitment to safeguarding those systems. There are large infrastructure and social welfare expenditure programs in the BRICS that require influence of capital and funding, and therefore you won't see, I don't think, a shake-up of the global financial architecture coming from the BRICS in the short term. That's not to say, however, that there isn't a need to reform that architecture in some way. And obviously the big marker that we've heard discussed this morning is the proposed BRICS Development Bank, which I won't go into much more detail on. One of the speakers at the session yesterday spoke of research has been very good at identifying questions. And in my presentation, we have a whole list of questions about G20 and BRICS that could form the basis of ongoing research, and which certainly is influencing the work that we are doing with groups of BRICS-based colleagues at the moment. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about trade. The BRICS now have a contact group on trade and investment. This currently focuses on 4 main issues: trade facilitation, trade data or statistics, investments, and strengthening of small and medium-sized enterprises. I do not think that a BRICS free trade area is on the cards, certainly in the short to medium term. And I also do not think that this should be the focus of the BRICS when it comes to trade. The immediate issues remain practical barriers to doing business between these countries. And I think that efforts would be much better spent on addressing things like customs issues, visas for business people, ensuring that it is actually possible for private sector entities, for those firms and those entrepreneurs who drive the economic relationships to connect between the BRIC countries. It's also critical, I think, beyond these practical issues for the BRICS to focus on the multilateral trading system. All the BRICS now, with Russia joining the WTO, are part of the World Trade Organization, and they therefore can act as a bloc much more concretely in influencing its future. The WTO Director General, Pascal Lamy, finished his term in 2013, and the election of a new leader provides BRICS a chance to nominate a strong candidate from developing countries who has a vision to move the organisation forward and to rebalance the global trading system in favour of development concerns. I'd just like to quickly conclude by noting that BRICS has now a capital S, which stands for South Africa. This is something that I am surprised is often forgotten still. South Africa did join the group in 2011. There's no doubt that South Africa is not at the same economic level as the rest of the BRICS. But it is an important political player and the political gateway into the rest of the African continent, I would contend. South Africa will stamp its mark on the BRICS summit when we host it in March 2013 in Durban. The theme is expected to be BRICS and Africa, Partnership for Development, Integration and Industrialization. This is my little advertisement, and we certainly look forward to welcoming our colleagues from BRICS countries when they join us in South Africa next year, and to take forward some of the discussions that we've been having here. Thank you.